Every map is a story, and behind every story is a responsibility to understand and protect the landscapes that sustain us. The Northern Landscape Sensitivity Atlas brings together science, data, and narrative to help communities and decision makers navigate the delicate balance between development and conservation in Northern Alberta. Dave Blaine from the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology joins us to share why this project matters, how storytelling transforms data into action, and what's next for this innovative approach to land use planning. Whether you're a planner, a researcher, or simply curious about how maps can shape the future of our environment, this episode is for you. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Geographical Thinking. I'm Michelle Brake, and I'll be your guide as we explore ideas, stories, and conversations through the lens of geography. Joining me today is Dave, and welcome to Geographical Thinking.
Thanks so much for having me today.
Let's tell the people, Dave, who are you? Why are you here? What brings you to our ears today?
That's a crazy and long, convoluted question. I'm a geographic information systems analyst and research associate at the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology. We're part of our applied research side. There's two halves to NAIT. There's the credit side with instruction and degree granting, things like that. And then there's applied research. And in that space, we support industry, government, community, all comers who have an innovative question they'd like for us to help them answer. So I'm part of the Center for Data Management and Visualization, and GIS falls very, very nicely within that rubric. And we've been working for going on 4 years now with Indigenous communities, starting in the Northwest Territories. And that's where this Northern Landscape Sensitivity Atlas really got underway. Working with the Sawtoo Renewable Resources Board in the Sawtoo Settlement region of the Northwest Territories. This is this broad, wide landscape between the Mackenzie Mountains and Great Bear Lake. And we've been supporting community in building this interactive web application that unifies spatial, cultural, media, all different kinds of data.
It sounds like really important work, bringing all of these elements together. I'm wondering, what is your role in bringing all of this to life? Are you primarily focused on the technical side, being a GIS analyst, or are you in with storytelling, or helping to bridge that gap between the two?
Yeah, it's definitely aspects of both. In Like I said, a very long and convoluted academic and professional pathway that brought me to this place. Undergraduate degree in archaeology, applied degree in GIS, just completed my master's in interdisciplinary studies, where I decided, hey, why not take a dual focus in heritage and social history and writing in new media, because let's put all the pieces together. So yeah, I'm a broadly interdisciplinary researcher, but I've also got a background in media, photography, broadcast television. So the visual storytelling dimension is kind of like that connective tissue that has unified everything that I've done across disciplines, whether it's archaeology, GIS, whatever. Like, we're telling a visual story at some point. If it's a map, if it's a diagram of a site, if it's a photograph of an interesting place or people doing interesting things. Like, for me, that visual communications dimension is the whole point of the process. And I'm not going to lie, I feel like if we could all just interact with tabular data, we wouldn't need GIS. Right? But most of us are visual in the way we interact with things, and that makes it accessible. And then storytelling is what makes it relevant.
And I think it's interesting to bring up that storytelling, knowing from your background, you've been in different areas with the archaeology and going into broadcasting. It's a wide range of topics to help bring stories to life, make sense of the past, the present, where things are at. Sounds like a pretty cool path that's gotten us to where we are today.
I uh, I I don't know any other way I would have done it. I don't recommend it because it takes forever, and I think it's probably easier for people to decide early on what they want to be when they grow up. But it works for me. And yeah, like I said, I'm a storyteller, and if I can help facilitate that and make hard things accessible, make complex things accessible, then that's the role that I fulfill. And for me, it's a delight because it is broadly technical. I can go to the field and meet interesting people and understand what cultures are like, how processes work. So the scenery changes for me. It satisfies that dimension of it. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's about helping to make things better in what way that I can.
Mhm. And how does this then filter into the work that you're doing with the Northern Landscape Sensitivity Atlas? How did it come about? Was it stories first, data first, chicken or the egg kind of situation here?
No, that's another interesting and convoluted topic. This actually began as an emergency management initiative prior to COVID. That was the research center's mandate, pardon me, that I was with when I started at NAIT. And we were interested in mapping hazard landscape in Alberta. I'm sure it makes the news all the time. We get lots of flood, we get lots of fire, some of the worst situations thereof in the country. So regrettably, this is something we do have a lot of practical experience with. And we had this idea of, wouldn't it be cool if we could have a map and tapping on a location would produce for us literally everything that was ever known or ever might be known about that square meter of landscape. This place has burned down 25 times since 1970. This place is flooded all the time. This place gets tornado. All of that different thing. Like, wouldn't it be cool if that were the case? Like that Star Trek library computer where we can just ask it and it'll compile for a moment and then analysis complete, it spits it out for you. It it was a wonderful aspiration, and it became very quickly clear that we don't manage our data in that way. There's no great big unified database of everything, or at least an interconnected multitude of databases of everything where you can simply ask and have it all out. So we decided we needed to put some parameters around that. And it was intended to support the province's efforts at provincial scale by providing a downstream look at everything that was at local scale. So, say somebody builds a berm because they have a dreadful time of flooding all the time. Well, presumably that berm might have some downstream effects to the next community downstream. So we wanted to try to map that out and take it from that 30,000 foot level to the local level. And then COVID showed up, promptly upended literally everything. We actually lost our research partner, but we had been funded for this idea by NSERC. And bless them, NSERC decided it would be easier for us to try to find a new partner and pivot than it would be to claw back the funds. And I take no credit for the next part. This is entirely due to the manager of our Center for Boreal Research here at NAIT. He was the one that suggested, you know what, it's not philosophically too big of a jump from a systems approach to emergency and preparedness and sustainability to a whole of society net benefit analysis that can target pretty much any question you may have. So let's look at the environmental benefits of a year-round road from Yellowknife to Inuvik. Let's look at the benefits to, or lack of same, that will impact caribou. Let's look at all of these different things. And I happen to know some folks up north who might be interested. So that warm introduction from that sister research facility is what brought us to the Sawtoo Renewable Resources Board. And they were very enthusiastic about it. It gelled with a ongoing caribou management study that they're working on. in an ArcGIS hub, so it seamlessly moves into it. It can be expanded, it can be scaled. So yeah, like needless to say, we found a wonderful engaged partnership up there, and that's where we took the project.
It does sound like the perfect combination of circumstances led to the best possible outcome. It sounds really
Yeah,
nice.
you're not wrong. I mean, if you could try to find something positive coming out of that chaos, starting in March 2020 and then moving forward, like this was the best possible situation we could have asked for. And again, I can't say enough good about our partners in the SRB, because like we're newcomers to Northwest Territories. Certainly, I'd never even been further north than Slave Lake, Alberta, in my life. I had nothing. I knew nothing about the North when I initiated this project, and embarrassingly ignorant about it, and having little more than Robert Service poetry to talk about Lost in the Barrens and that frozen wasteland. It couldn't be further from the truth. So seeing the beauty and the grandeur of that landscape and getting to participate in collaborative field work with knowledge holders, with guardians, with elders who were gracious and giving and shared their understanding of the land with me so that I could participate in co-authoring this mapping interface that serves that community's need and that community's aims and priorities. And those are different. That's the other dimension that's shaken out of this project as we've gone forward, is that the Northern Atlas covers the Sawtoo region, and there are 5 principal communities up there. Every one of them has their own priority. Some of them are concerned with water quality or water level on the Mackenzie River. Some are concerned with the disruptions that they're seeing from climate change, either to increased snowfall or less snowfall or just more extreme weather shifts. Some are concerned with public health and heavy metal mining that was going on for decades in on the shores of Great Bear Lake. Like, they all had different priorities. So we did this pilot project. I tend to think about it now as a way of working with all communities within that settlement region. But that's what sensitized us to the fact that we really need to take this down yet another level and tailor it to every community that wants to participate. So that's why atlases, we went from the Northern Landscape Sensitivity Atlas to the Indigenous led Community Atlases. It's plural because everyone is different, everyone is unique, everyone is tailored.
And understanding it's a wide range of topics and areas and differences in the people you're interacting with. Why was it important to make the atlas not just informative, but engaging through a visual presentation and through stories?
That's just an alignment that shook out with our partners. Storytelling is of critical social and cultural importance to the communities and the nations that we work with. It is part of life. You sit down, you share story about experience, stories about life, and what your next steps or your capacities or your interests, all of that's simply part of it. It's that sharing. So when we started looking at how can we use this tool not just to serve capacity building or decision making, policy making at a community level, but how can we use this to amplify the message of the community and to use it as a platform from which they can trumpet their stewardship of the land, their presence on the land, their heritage, their everything about it that makes this place their home. So that's the reason why the storytelling component is critical. And we're very lucky in this day and age where we have this concept that falls under the umbrella term of new media. Because like I'm an Xer, like I remember a modern yet pre-digital world where if you wanted to publish some text, well, you needed an imprint, and that was its own industrial process. If you wanted to broadcast your ideas out on radio, well, you needed a transmitter. If you wanted to be television, you needed a broadcaster. Like, all of these were separate and very complex industrial pillars. And the web unites all of them. I mean, I'm sitting here talking to you all over the internet. I've got a nice microphone. I've got a nice camera, like audio, visual, text, interactivity, animation. All of these things are unified in a web portal. So this is something that allows the story to be, it doesn't replace the experience of having been there, but it brings us a little closer by showing something that is dynamic. And I think that's something that is, it's very useful and it's needed because, like I said, I knew nothing about the North. So if I were to see a film, kind of a dashboard camera that I did with my action camera on the bow of a motorboat going up Bear River, that was a new thing for me. I'd conjecture it's a new thing for a lot of Canadians who have no idea what's actually up there in the North. This is just one way of providing a little bit more fulsome experience, however vicarious, of what it's like to be up there and why it is beautiful and it is valued and why you have people who live there, who make their home there, and why they want to defend it.
Acknowledging what you said there about how media has changed over time and how we're connecting through technology has changed over time, I'm wondering, how has mapping in this way changed the way people are engaging with data compared to a traditional report or a table from what you've seen in your project so far?
You know, and I love the fact that in all of our work, pardon me again, we're always sensitive to the reality that not everybody has excellent 5G connectivity, right? So that informs the way we design our dashboards. That informs the way we design our experiences. We will optimize data connections so that it takes up as little room on your browser, as little memory on your browser as it possibly can do. So it's not epically laggy and slow and ultimately not very useful. If your connection is dial up slow, which in some places it is, and there are places where this is simply not an option. So we still do the paper maps. And I'm not going to lie, that's my favorite bit. I mean, like, I love maps because of Tolkien.
Mhm.
That it's the first thing you see when you open the dust jacket of that book is this is Middle Earth laid out in front of you. I can visualize everything about that landscape because I had that map. It made it real to me. And that's what is my impetus for doing all of these things. It supports the story. It's kind of foundational to the story, and it allows you a little bit more freedom to interact with the details of the story. But you're right, it's changed a lot. And we can now include multimedia. We have pop ups, we have hyperlinks, we have film or video rather, photographs, we have audio. So now it's more than just this flat static representation of the landscape. It's an interactive platform where, say we've found, because indeed we have, recordings of elders speaking at community roundtables or study circles, individuals who are no longer with us, but their perspectives from a generation ago are still valid because that's part of the living history of the landscape. Well, if there's something relevant to the map, we can add that piece of media as yet another item in the pop-up or the attribute table. So once again, it enriches the map and makes it a living document and a dynamic thing. And it's something that we can scale and expand. So that, I think, when we started showing that, when we started really digging into reams and reams of old archival data on the most unbelievably outdated formats you can possibly imagine. Like, I'm showing my age here, but who among us, I wonder, remembers digital tapes? These little 30 gig HP cassettes that look like the one you might put in an answering machine. Again, dating myself. But it was like, I don't even have a reader for one of those things. There's a lot of data that's locked up in old demagnetizing formats that just would be a rich resource for what things were like and what research we were doing 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I mean, it's easier if I find stuff on paper. I'm not going to lie. So when we retrieve all of that legacy data, we operationalize it, we put it into the new system. It's like magic watching the community members use it, because oh my gosh, I haven't heard that person's voice in so long, and they're absolutely right. The caribou used to be here. Oh, isn't this is an amazing story from Granddad that he told me about one time, where we actually had a polar bear on Great Bear Lake. Like this, all of these different things. There's just so much. There's a wealth of things and stories that can be shared in this platform, in this kind of mapping portal. But I still love drawing it for paper.
I understand. I'm a very tangible person. When I go out hiking and camping and various things, yeah, I can take a digital map, but there's something special with having a paper map. I can figure out where am I at based on what's around me. There's something special about it. I also still look at every book that I get. Oh, is something sci-fi or fantasy? There's probably going to be a map included, and it's a
Exactly.
fun discovery. Yeah. So acknowledging again, the project has changed, the people have changed, the data has changed, a lot of things have changed over time. Has the way you worked with communities changed throughout the project?
Absolutely. It's if anything, it's expanded. When we were up north, we were working among fellow colleagues. Really, my dear collaborator up there, the research intern for SRB. I mean, the person who took me out onto the land, made fun of me when I bailed my snowmobile half a dozen times, but was just like always there for me and always so welcoming. I mean, like I couldn't have done what I did without Jonathan being there. But he's kind of my counterpart in SRB. Like he's the one doing the work as well. So we were collaborating. We're sharing everything that we've produced, and then we're putting it into this hub site of theirs, after which the editorial discretion is entirely upon them. Like we've made all of these data products, they will share what they intend to share. They will keep for their internal use or their partner research organizations. Like that's them, and that's respecting their data sovereignty. This is their ownership, their control, their agency. So that was kind of like the way an academic partnership, I feel, is done. We're all working together at the same level toward the same goal. What was decided as we took this to the next logical step, working straight with communities, is actually an initiative that's already underway at NAIT, where we have Indigenous-led research with partner communities. And they've come to us because we have a mass spectrometer and all sorts of chem labs and sensor integration workshops, all of these different things. This brain trust and these world-class facilities that we bring are available to partner with. And they know this, and they said, we want to do a project where we internally are identifying the state of soil contamination or land segmentation because of industrial encroachment, or you pick something. It's not even on me. These are their priorities. These are their community interests. These are their research goals. And for the last 4 years, while I've been doing map stuff, our other clean technologies and environmental research centers have been working with community to build capacity. So now we have learners from community who have been kind of deputized by their own councils to become the field researchers. And they're learning best practices for field data capture and sampling and labs and analysis, so that this can be built as an internal in-house ability. And when I completed the Northern project and we decided, all right, well, let's move this back into Alberta, we decided, okay, well, the logical thing to do is everybody who's been doing this environmental monitoring has a wealth of data and it's entirely spatial. So why not work hand in glove so that any community doing environmental monitoring builds an atlas too? And that's ideal because it's not on me to decide what is relevant to the community or trivial. They've decided that already, and we have a big chunk of data that needs to be analyzed, visualized, and shared by whatever discretion the community may have. And we build it into a platform that is scalable and expandable. So now it can tell the story about their initiatives and their stewardship of the land through environmental monitoring. And maybe we have those archives from the history of the community, and we'd like to operationalize that too in a story or a dashboard or an interactive map application of some sort. Or maybe we want to do some augmented reality stuff for our youth. One has actually brought that forward. And that's cool because that's something that was done on an archaeology project that I've been involved with for a number of years, where you've got the app on your mobile device and you walk through the archaeological site, and when you arrive at locations you get little pop-ups that will show a recreation of the site as it might have been 1,000 years ago and what it was for. So that's something that one of the communities expressed interest in doing in their own borders. So all of these different things, I mean, I know it sounds lame to say it's the limits of your imagination, but it really is, because they can do just wonderful, astonishing, engaging things with this platform. It's just a matter of taking direction from them and now engaging this capacity building. So, as learners achieve these micro credentialing in environmental stewardship through our continuing ed department, or as they build those skills in lab, in field data capture, well, now they're also building skills in GIS. And we're not at this point working towards like any kind of credentialing in GIS, but the practicality at the end of a long-term project is you've now got a good group of power users who are skilled and trained in their system, and they can take it and do cool stuff with it. I mean, we like to say we would love it if they continued calling us, but they don't have to, because they have all the skills and all the resources they need to just take this and go forward with it. So that's the dimension of training, of mentorship, of knowledge transfer that the atlases have now taken on after that initial project up in the north.
It honestly sounds like the ideal situation that we want to see play out when it comes to academia and research and communities and working with them and building capacity. You want people to feel empowered, to want to go out, continue that work. They want to build on it. It makes my heart happy to hear about it.
Well, and this is what sovereignty and indigenous data sovereignty, this is what that means to us, is that we are walking alongside. We are not leading so much as facilitating. And at the end of the day, what we are doing is co-creating a tool that serves long after we've moved on. And part of that comes from something that, and it's not even necessarily like malice or ill will at work here. It's just the reality of the way academics works. But when an elder up north said to me on one of my first visits, we want to work with people, we want to share with people, but people always leave. Said, I get it. It's hard to go up there. It's expensive to get up there, and it's expensive to get around up there. But when an elder says to me, some graduate student was doing what I thought was a real cool project, and I guess she graduated because I never heard from her again. I mean, that crippled me. That was just the worst thing I ever could imagine hearing. But I get how priorities change, people move on, everything is dynamic. But that was what really germinated all those years ago into something that says, like, how do we make this so that people are going to use it and go on using it? And that's also influenced by the little bit of background that I do have in emergency management, because as necessary as that collaborative effort is, it's usually pretty underfunded and understaffed. So are we going to make something that is so complex and is such a production just to turn it on and off? I can tell you that those operators are not going to use it. They're going to go back to the with the map scribbled on the back of a cocktail napkin on the hood of an ambulance because that's what they know how to do. So it's not enough to make something that does cool stuff, even if it's useful. It has to be usable to the people who are going to be adopting it. So that's what's really informed this process over the long term of how are we going to use this for some level of enablement and amplification and stewardship.
And it's interesting to hear how communities have evolved into it and how they want it to continue beyond somebody's 3-4 year project, whatever it may be, that somebody else sets out as their time limit, when somebody's life and the life they're living isn't bound by that same group of time. I'm wondering, how has the project, from your experience, been helping communities or industries and policymakers to make better decisions about things like land use and development? It sounds like there's a lot of potential of the ways it can go within a community and with different stakeholders. What have you seen?
You know what I've seen that is probably the most rewarding is when one of my collaborators from in community says back to me or says to somebody else, knowing how to deploy this tool, how to use this system, and most importantly, and this is something I pride myself on, honestly, is going all the way back to my formative education in GIS. We always had these kind of salesmanship sessions where you had to do an elevator pitch where you tell, what is GIS? What is GIS? How do you explain GIS in half a minute to a non-user? And I never found that anywhere near as valuable as telling somebody who's not from the field, what is GIS for? So that's when it really warms my heart to see somebody saying, it's like, I know what I can use this for. And it may not be the same thing. In fact, it's wondrous to see how often it is entirely distinctive. When one community consultation manager says, I can use this to defend my rights under treaty. I said, yes, indeed you can. Because there's a spatial component to what your agreement with the Crown says about your rights in the use of the landscape and what the landscape is for in terms of your traditional economy, hunting, trapping, fishing, gathering. We can operationalize that spatially. So the idea that this can be used to defend and uphold, in fact, treaty, that's just astonishing. I hadn't remotely considered that when I started doing this. I'm like really with my nose to the ground thinking, oh my gosh, like we need to worry about this. There's mercury in this pond. There is heavy metals or irradiated material in this garage. So like I'm very local in that perspective when I started this. No, this is big picture stuff. That's cool. And then another collaborator said, I can take discussion that I'm now having with elders about where the fish were when they were young and how the fish have moved or how they've gone bad somehow. Their meat is flaky and soft. It's not the way it used to be. And they can tell me, this is the way it was at this lake or this stream 75 years ago. This is when I noticed it changing at an interval there. This is the way it is right now. And in addition to simply learning from elders what the ways were, and you'd like to think could still be, they're also getting that lived experience, and we can capture that in a variety of different ways. The other thing that we got to do, which was just such a wonderful thing to watch, was in our Touch Interactive facility at our lab at NAIT, we brought community members, knowledge keepers, elders, and we did a place naming workshop with them. And that was amazing. In collaboration with some other researchers at U of A, we brought about a dozen community members into our lab, and I built an open editable map session for them, put it on our touchscreen displays in our lab, And it was kind of magical to watch that we saw two tables kind of coalesce in the process of this discussion. And one was a Cree speaking table and one was a Dene speaking table, and these people are like laughing and talking and reminiscing, and some of these overheard conversations like, oh, your granddad was nuts, the river wasn't called this, it was called that. But we're capturing that in real time on the app. And we identified like a couple of hundred place names in a single day and a half workshop. Like, that was dynamite. What a cool thing to watch happen. And then we eliminated a lot of the human data entry errors that tend to come with place naming workshops, which are usually on paper maps and involve a lot of Sharpie markers and sticky notes. And all of that was just captured all at once in real time in the database. And then we turned that database directly over to the community, and they can take it and add not just cultural, but even family history nuance to a map that previously was just this flat surface with a bunch of English names on it. Well, now they have names in 3 different languages and the nuance of a family's history in this area and a community's history in that area. So that's impactful because it involves people right down to that local level. We have elders in their 70s or older laughing and talking and saying that's some of the most fun they ever had in a place naming research workshop. Like, that for me is what this is doing. It's showing that there is a useful purpose to this tech, because I've also seen the other side of it. I've heard from some of my collaborators that, especially elders who are recalcitrant to accept more technology and more development in their communities, and we don't feel like we're really tech people here. And I try to be sensitive to that reality as well. But I think it comes out that youth are interested in using these technologies and deploying them. And if there's one thing we can all agree on, whether it's me or an elder, is that we want to engage youth. So this has been accepted so far with the few communities I've worked with as a generally positive thing, because it's something that can be used to bring knowledge keepers and youth together to learn more about the landscape, the history, the culture, and move it forward so that it's made safe, it survives, it becomes robust, it comes back.
And it's really touching to hear how much impact and how much mapping and GIS is resonating with people that you've had a chance to meet with at various levels throughout different communities. You've come a long way and had a lot of impact so far. Where are we thinking of going next? Like, how do you top that? Do you see the atlas growing or changing in the next few years?
You
What's
know
the
what? I
plan?
mean, yeah, that's a fair question, and I don't know exactly. And I mean, we're a polytechnic institute, so we're not a university. I don't know how things work because these are provincial responsibilities. I'm sure they're idiosyncratic from Alberta through to Ontario and beyond. But in our neck of the woods, as a polytechnic, we don't do foundational curiosity's sake research. That's a university's purview. So we have the facilities, we have the training, we have the knowledge base to be able to support all comers. And that informs the way our funding model works. So external funding, project by project. There's vagaries to that, and let's just be realistic, sometimes funding streams dry up. That said, there is so much appetite for a project such as this, like more so than we are able to support at present. We have so many communities coming knocking on our door through our office for Indigenous partnerships and engagement, who have said, I saw this, I'd like to do this too. So it's growing organically beyond any communications, social streams, or whatever that's coming out of NAIT. People are hearing about it. They'd like to do this too. So I don't see it going anywhere. And the beauty of it is no one atlas is going to be the same as the one before it or the one next, because every single nation has its own origin story, its own language, its own dialect, its own concept of origin, all of that. And they have different priorities, the one from the next. So this thing isn't an umbrella project that or product that can simply be distributed at scale. It's like, think about it as a bolt of cloth. Like, then fine, we will tailor that into the kind of suit that you would like. That's what we do. So we have, it's very open ended. And that informs the design of our database structures. It informs the tools and automations that we use. We cast this very wide net in terms of data, and then we drill it down with filters, with customizations, so that it is relevant to the community that needs it. So yeah, it's kind of turned entirely on its end from that initial great big everything database simulator that we thought we might have one day, and it is now from that grassroots moving upward. So not so much a great big platform as a network of potentially interconnected nodes where everybody is served according to their ideas of sovereignty, of development, of sustainability. So, long story longer, I guess, is that the scenery promises always to be changing with a project such as this, because it is ultimately and resolutely co-authored and co-created, and we take our direction from the communities that choose to partner with us.
Now, I know this is another big question to add on top of, okay, we got the future, where we're going next. What advice do you have for other organizations or communities that are looking to combine data and storytelling, maybe even go into Atlas territory at some point?
Oh boy, you know what? It needs time. That's the only thing that I can think of. And like, I've had this, I won't call it an argument, it's a discussion, but as we've moved forward and we've decided, okay, so we've got this other project and it's going to be an atlas. Like, okay, so your initial pilot project was 3 years. So you've done a whole bunch of the heavy lifting already. Can we do it in 2? And foolishly optimistically, I suggested, yeah, we probably can. No, like 3 years is a comfortable approach, because the way we've structured this works extremely well for us. As we've learned, year 1 is discovery. And this is not to suggest that discovery ends at year 1. Discovery is ongoing, but we dedicate year 1 to building relationship with community, because a lot of stuff shakes out, and there are cultural guardrails that dictate how often we can interact and how well we can intersect. There are seasonal things. I'm not going to request an opportunity to go into community if it is the height of a harvesting season, because I'm just going to be a burden and I'm going to be in the way. So like, I'm not going to do that. I will make myself available over the course of an entire year to engage with them when it is most prudent and most respectful for them. So there's that dimension of it. We're always being sensitive to the cultural and the social reality of the communities to which we've been invited. So there's that bit, and we learn a lot in that first year. We learn what priorities are. We learn how quickly priorities can shift. I was saying this earlier today. To an outside observer, you might think that this is a project that doesn't so much cross the line between a targeted completion and scope creep as it just plain erases it. Like, it really does look like we're flying by the seat of our pants here. But no, this is an iterative, incremental process. And again, like a broken record, we take our direction from our communities. So, that's year 1. And it's a big year. Then we start discussing implementation. So how do we start, or not implementation, but development? Like, okay, what kind of apps are you interested in building? What kind of storytelling do you want to do? What kind of spatial and statistical and other data products and outputs, what do you need? What's your priorities? There's too much to do it all. There's simply too much. So we have to assign the priority to what is most significant to the community. And that's where we're doing that app development, those analyses, and also that capacity building. So we're workshopping with learners. We are giving instruction, and we're permitting them the leeway to start learning the tool as well, so they can start doing mini projects. And that's how we can kind of cast that net a little bit wider. We've got like community priority, but maybe one of our learners has an interest in something else. Well, okay, fine. Here's how you build a dashboard. Here's how you build a story map. Go out there and tell it, and use that as a way to advocate to your community why you think this project is the next reasonable one to take when we are done and we've moved on. So there's development phase, year 2. Year 3 that's implementation. That's where we go from you're learning how to be a power user in this system. Now you are going to populate this thing because it is yours. Again, that's our approach to data sovereignty. To the full extent that we are able, we will work within their system, and they will grant us either editor or publisher or even administrator capability or capabilities within their system, but we're building it inside theirs so that it eliminates the question of how do we do this seamless handover? Well, we didn't have to in the first place. It's theirs. They own it. They possess what they own. It's under their direct control, and they can shut off that administrator privilege anytime they like. I mean, that's how this works. And that brings us to a hectic and a busy, but a comfortably achievable 3-year interval where we can get something really impactful done. It's robust, it's solid, it works, and they can move on and take it in whatever direction they like. So yeah, very long-winded. It's a way of saying time takes time. Give it the time it needs. This has worked extremely well for us, and it's a sensitive and it's a respectful and it's a dignified approach to really putting our money where our mouths are and living our philosophy that this is led by them and it's co-created with us.
Now, to bring us to a close, if anybody listening wants to contribute or collaborate, chat more, or simply stay informed about the project, what's the best way to find out more or connect?
So you can reach NAIT through our applied research website. We have our Center for Data Management Visualization site is within the applied research site. If you are Indigenous community members who have an interest, then reach out to our Center for Indigenous Partnerships and Engagement. That is their name. And yeah, that's where you'll be able to properly engage through them, and they can steward that relationship building to the point where you're ready to start working with us. Because yeah, like I said, there's a lot of appetite for this. There's a lot of interest in it, and it's a lot for us to keep track of. So we have a lot of resources at work across the institution to help manage all of that traffic and all of that interest.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dave, for your insight and sharing all about what you're doing. It sounds like a really impactful project, and I can't wait to see where it goes next. Any last words you want to share with our audience?
Just to say, likewise. I mean, this is a great this is a audacious, great big thing that we're trying to accomplish here. We're still in the initial stages of it. I mean, like I said, I consider the Northern Landscapes to have been an initial pilot project, which informed a lot of what we're doing now. So it'll be carrying on for quite a while, I'd expect. And let's make sure that's the case. Let's make sure it stays evergreen, because it absolutely is work worth doing.
Fantastic. A huge thank you to Dave for sharing his insights, expertise, and passion for collecting data for stories that matter. The Northern Landscape Sensitivity Atlas and everything else we've talked about today aren't just collections of maps. They're tools for understanding and helping us to bridge between sciences and community. They're a guide for making informed decisions about the future of our northern environments. Now, today's conversation reminded us that storytelling can turn information into action, helping us see that bigger picture and the human impact behind every choice. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep thinking geographically.